Tony Abbott has vowed to unite his divided party. Good government, he says, starts from here. Foreign Minister Julie Bishop joins me now. Minister, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carl.
It begs the question, what sort of government have we had until now?
We have been focusing on governing the country even through this difficult leadership period. Over the weekend, while there were phone calls being made about the leadership matter, we were still governing the country, and I think that's important. We're continuing to focus on the higher education reforms so that our universities are the very best they can be and our young people get every opportunity to get a good degree, a good qualification. We're focusing on ensuring that Medicare is sustainable, and Susan Lee is out there talking to doctors. We know there are savings in the health system and she's going to find them without compromising the quality of care. So all of the ministers, all of the party have been continuing to govern and continuing to focus on the concerns of the Australian people.
There's been a bit of navel-gazing going on. The reality is we all know how this story ends, don't we? Tony Abbott is dead man walking, isn't he?
I don't believe that's to be the case. There was a vote yesterday, it was lost, and the Prime Minister has said he will unite the team, and I saw a lot of evidence of that yesterday in the party room. There were no recriminations, people shook hands, some people hugged, and we got on with the business of governing, and we all turned up in question time, and I thought it was a very good question time for the government as we outlined the achievements, and we also talked about what we want to do in the future to make a better life for people here in Australia.
You of all people know, though, you just can't sustain poll figures like that, Julie, can you, the way they are? Why don't you just pull the trigger, get it done with?
Because I have seen poll figures like this before, and I have seen leaders go on to win successive elections. I recall 2001 exceedingly well when we came back from the Christmas holiday break, and John Howard's polls were not exactly in the positive category, and we all pulled together, we worked really hard, we came up with an exceptionally good budget, and we won the 2001 election in 2004. So I have seen these poll figures before. The focus has to be, though, on doing the very best job we can for the people of Australia. That's what we were elected to do.
Is Joe Hockey being replaced?
No, Joe's continuing on as Treasurer. In fact, we had a very strong discussion, a very frank discussion in Cabinet last night about the budget that he's preparing now. So he's in the midst of preparing the next budget.
All right, so he's safe?
Well, Joe Hockey is appointed by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's asked him to prepare a budget, and that's what he's doing. He's working very hard with the other members of our economic team to ensure that we've got a budget that is fair but takes into account the reality of the mess that we inherited from Labor, and there's no running away from this. And we've got a massive debt and a huge deficit that we have to pay off to ensure that we can have a better future for the people of Australia. That's what we're focusing on.
Just to clarify, Joe Hockey won't be replaced?
Well, this is the Prime Minister's call. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in the media how these appointments are made. The Prime Minister, as leader of the party, is elected by the party room. I, as deputy, am separately elected by the party room. They're the only two elected positions. Other than that, the appointments are made by the Prime Minister. So that's a matter for the Prime Minister. And yesterday, the Prime Minister and Joe Hockey were talking about the preparations they're doing for the budget.
So Joe Hockey's survival relies on a captain's call. He's not going to be consultative on that?
Every minister is there as an appointee of the Prime Minister.
But it's a captain's call.
That's our system. It's our system. That's what happens in the Labor Party. That's what happens in the Liberal and National Party. It's the leader's choice as to who become the ministers. And, of course, they consult on that. But it's the leader's call, just as we have said that we don't have a presidential system where leaders and deputies run on tickets. The leader is elected, the deputy leader is elected, and the leader gets to choose his cabinet after consultation. Now, that's been the case forevermore, so there's nothing unusual about that.
OK, but you can't guarantee anyone's safe at the moment.
Carl, this is a silly line of questioning.
Well, it's a captain's call.
People have been appointed... Well, and that has always been the case.
Right.
People are how else do you think people get appointed Treasurer? What, they just wake up one morning and they're Treasurer?
Well,
No.
but the reality is, if you're trying to convince an electorate
Minister.
someone's safe, you can't. It's up to the captain.
Well, I am telling you that the Prime Minister has confirmed all ministers in their current positions.
OK.
Now,
Right. Tony Abbott said in Parliament yesterday...
I'm sorry, that's always been the case, and so there is nothing unusual about the fact that ministers are appointed by the leader. So you know that, I know that. OK,
Tony Abbott said in Parliament yesterday he's standing by his Treasurer, he's standing by his team. News Limited reports this morning that at least half a dozen ministers broke ranks and voted against Tony Abbott. What happened to loyalty?
It's a secret ballot. That is pure speculation. I mean, people go on strike to have the right to a secret ballot. We have a secret ballot in the party room, so no one knows how anybody voted unless they told them or showed them. And I know that many members were holding their cards very close to their chest and were not talking about how they voted, and that right should be respected.
So that's got to be annoying for you if 6 have broken ranks. Is that story wrong?
Well, it's speculation. How would I know? It was a secret ballot, and people haven't told me how they voted. I don't intend to tell them how I voted, because that would then put pressure on every member to say how they voted, and what's the point of a secret ballot then? So I think it's pure speculation.
OK, well, if they've got names and they come out, that'll be embarrassing, won't it?
Well, it'll be up to every individual member to say how they voted if they wish to. And I'm not going to state on national television how I voted, because that would put unfair pressure on everybody else. But I think everybody knows the position I take as deputy, and the deputy's job is to support the leader that the party room have elected. And that's what I do. I support the leader. I don't work to change the leader.
Julie, how much time do you give the Prime Minister?
The next election, the Australian public will decide who they want to govern for the next 3 years, and they'll decide between the coalition and they'll decide between the Labor Party, and Tony Abbott will be the leader of the coalition.
So he'll lead the party into the next election. There won't be another vote this week, as has been highly speculated. Next week, in June, it'll be the election.
That's all speculation.
OK. Finally, just into your portfolio now, if we can move on. How much time does Andrew Chan and Myron Sukumaran have left, do you think?
I have been working very hard on this matter. In fact, I spoke to the families last night. They are with our consular staff, our ambassador in Indonesia. I know they're on their way home now, but you just put yourself in the shoes of those families, and they're absolutely devastated at the prospect of their loved ones being on death row. The challenge, of course, is that drug trafficking is an offence in Indonesia that carries with it the death penalty in many instances. And so it's a sovereign nation with its own judicial system. We are doing all we can behind the scenes. We're making representations, and privately and publicly, to stay the execution. And we will not give up. We're continuing to do that on a daily basis. I speak to their foreign minister. We have other senior officials making representations at very senior levels. The Prime Minister has been making representations to the Indonesian President. So we will continue to do what we can to ensure a stay, and we will continue to ask for clemency for both of them. They have made an extraordinary advance in their rehabilitation in prison. In fact, the Indonesian prison system has proven what other prison systems around the world would long to prove, and that is you can rehabilitate those who have lost their way through drug offences and being involved in the drug trade. So we hope and pray that we will be able to stay an execution.
Julie, always good to talk to you. Thanks for your time.